Hi there, I'm Esther Wilkinson, Head of International here at Jisc. I've been in this role for almost 6 years now, and I'm responsible for our international approach, looking across our portfolio of opportunities internationally, and ensuring we support our members in their international endeavours. I'm sure you know of this already, our vision at Jisc and the 3 things that we do. Our vision for the UK to be the best place in the world to use technology to learn, teach and research, and by each day powering UK's higher and further education, inspiring its digital transformation and building solutions that make it happen. We do 3 things. We provide shared digital infrastructure and services, we negotiate sector-wide vendor and publisher deals, and we provide expert trusted advice. And the reason that I've included this is that it's my aspiration to be able to offer these 3 services and 3 areas of responsibility overseas. Of course, this is an aspiration and it won't always be possible. This is our international approach. Not so much a strategy, but over the last few years we've been developing these areas as our priorities. Strategic priority 1, supporting our members internationally, wherever they may be or want to work. This has been our main focus to date, specifically supporting transnational education, where we are educating students overseas, whether that's in a branch campus, in a partnership or online. Our second priority is a world-leading research and education network, offering our products and services globally. We know we have a number of products and services that can be used by education providers and researchers overseas, for example by other universities, consortia or other research and education networks such as Jisc. For example, we've been able to offer our digital capabilities and student experience tools to a number of universities in Australia, and many of our library services are being used in places like the Middle East. We're capitalising on using our services so that others don't have to reinvent the wheel, or others may be able to enhance our own services by working in partnership. We're very clear that working in this way is not at the expense of our national interests, and any income generated comes back to support our own members. Our third priority is not rocket science, and our final interests are in thought leadership, advocacy, partnership and collaboration. This is the core of what we do, globally, at conferences, events and being part of international groups. But also I've made a concerted effort to establish Jisc as part of the UK global sector, working with stakeholders such as Universities UK International, the British Council, Department for International Trade and the Quality Assurance Agency. We are now an integral part of the UK landscape for international research and education, more importantly now more than ever, given the reliance on digital and technology. Now we come to the situation we currently find ourselves in. Whilst the world has closed down in one sense, shutting its borders, it's more important than ever to be able to cross these borders to deliver our research and education. As I mentioned earlier, up until January 2020, our education offer to support members' international needs was centred around support for T&E, transnational education, in both higher and further education. As I say, whether that be through branch campus, a partnership arrangement, online distance learning or a blended approach, those were our responsibilities. Many education providers that we've spoken to were planning already a shift to more online distance learning or a blended approach in the medium term to address issues such as efficiency, cost effectiveness and wider issues such as climate change and the need to support equity and lifelong learning. Addressing, for example, the UNESCO Sustainable Development Goals as a key driver. International students who come to the UK to study were supported no differently than UK students, requiring no specific Jisc attention. However, now we have a responsibility for a larger, more international cohort of students. Given COVID-19, we now have transnational education students who would have been on a campus or in a partner institution. Those institutions having been closed, these students will now be studying at home through online delivery. We have international students who would have been studying in the UK. Most of these will have been repatriated to their home country and expect to be continuing their studies or their education through remote online distance learning. We have students who are expecting to come to the UK to study in September or October this year. And on top of that, students studying or expecting to study pre-sessional courses, for example, English language training, in their home country prior to starting UK education later this year. So in a sense, there's now less meaning to transnational education. All international students are studying at home, a single cohort in different countries expecting to be educated online. Most critical of these are the prospective students who may change their plans to study in the UK. The international student market is worth around £6 billion a year to the UK economy, and reports this week up to 40%, an increasing number, may now change their plans and not come to the UK to study. This is significant. So what happened? Due to COVID-19, the online shift that was planned in the next 12 to 24 months in universities and colleges happened in just 2 to 3 months, and I'll come back to this point later. Through discussion with our members, we know that quality and student experience may have been, understandably, compromised at the expense of delivery. But now, after the immediate rush, we're reaching a period of settling down with more space and time to plan, apart from still needing to assess and examine and plan for pre-sessional courses. And also we have a relatively small window to get things right for the start of the new term. It's looking highly likely we'll be starting that new term almost fully online for such international students. And with that, student experience becomes ever more important. So how do we manage this interim next period? The sector needs to work together, both in the UK and globally. And that means education providers, stakeholders, sector bodies and government, providing advice and guidance, not just on technology, but on all aspects, qualifications recognition, government policies in different countries, and take some reflection and lessons learned. Learning from each other is critical in this time. So how is technology, digital and data enabling and underpinning what we need to do? Here are some challenges for some suggestions for our challenges and opportunities. Country by country, there are different legal, regulatory, political, technological and other environments. One university I spoke to recently now needs to educate students in over 160 countries. Even where there may be a single student in one country, it may be in the most remote parts of the world. They are just as important as every other student to receive the same education quality and experience as all of their counterparts. Equity and accessibility is another concern. There may be a detriment to affected student cohorts, a concern that some students may be disadvantaged to a shift in online provision. They may not have equipment, devices, access to broadband. Examination and assessment. Again, that's the new rush that we need to address, the need for consistent, high-speed, reliable connectivity to be able to carry out those exams and assessment in real time. Student experience. Again, the need for consistent, high-speed, reliable connectivity for equitable and excellent student experience. Digital skills and capabilities. What training is available for overseas cohorts to use existing technologies? And staff and student health and well-being. We need to use data analytics and intervention, more importantly here, as our students are more remote, but that gets us more challenging. So what have we been doing here at Jisc? We'd already been preparing our transnational and international services and support. In terms of services, we have the Global Connect service, a connectivity service, a global partnership service, and advice and guidance, and support for licensing content overseas in the TNE licensing service. We've also been looking into the digital experience insights and building digital capabilities for international students. We have an international education technology special interest group, a number of case studies. We've been working with JAINT and chairing a special interest group on TNE. And as I mentioned before, cross-government and sector groups are essential to be working with in this area. We're also part of the Global Research and Education Network Chief Executive Forum, which addresses issues such as COVID-19 on a global rather than national basis. It's important now to come on to support specific to China. We've taken an initial, but not exclusive, focus on China. In the last 6 weeks, over 20 universities not already working with us have come for help and support specifically relating to China. Back in January 2020, there was a series of reports on how the UK universities are increasingly reliant on income from Chinese students, who represent around 10% of the international student cohort. So it's important we address this in terms of student numbers. As well as the increased volume of students, delivery of education in China has its technical and regulatory challenges, mainly due to the Great Firewall of China, restricting access of certain services and applications, in addition to random security checks on internet packets through 3 international gateways. This results in inconsistent performance and an impact on quality of connectivity, as well as blocked content to any virtual learning environments hosted outside of China. We already had some services in place. Where we needed campus-to-campus connectivity, we had been working and troubleshooting with our counterparts, CERNET, in China. Where we needed off-campus connectivity, we'd put in place China Transit. We'd purchased transit from both China Telecom and China Unicom, 2 of the main providers within China. We've now started, in the last months, a pilot project about getting better access to virtual learning environments between the UK and China. So we are developing options and a potential service to improve the quality, performance and accessibility of services for global distance learning. This pilot project is with Alibaba Cloud, and it aims to achieve an initially short-term solution supporting UK education delivered in China, to enable both international and transnational education students to have reliable access to course material and VLE systems hosted on Janet or other cloud providers' networks, such as Blackboard, Moodle, Canvas. We have 3 universities involved in the pilot project, and the project will run for a month. We also are producing advice and guidance on supporting technology for international education in China, and that's due to be released imminently. We'll then develop that for further areas of the world which may be less challenging. We also have a COVID-19 planning team site, and part of that is where we have an area for international discussion. Looking forward, in my view, we should be maintaining this momentum from this unprecedented period and embracing the new norm. During 2019 and 2020, we'd initiated a series of activities around the next industrial revolution, Industry 4.0, one of which was around Education 4.0. This is our vision for the future of higher education teaching and learning, formed with significant inputs from leaders in UK higher education teaching. We were starting to look at the potential in delivering education through existing, not new, technologies such as artificial intelligence, cloud computing, 5G, Internet of Things, mixed virtual augmented reality, blockchain and quantum computing. We believe these 4.0 technologies will cause a long-awaited transformation of higher education teaching and learning. So I do believe we should keep up the momentum that we've created in the current crisis, and in our brave new world look at adopting these technologies to truly transform education. I wanted to leave you with some food for thought and some ideas to provoke some further thoughts and approaches to us. And on that note, my call to action for you is to take this back to your institutions about a conversation about the implications of Industry and Education 4.0 and how this can be extrapolated for the next generation of international education and T&E, underpinned and enabled through technology. In our rapidly changing fourth industrial revolution, how are we going to make a huge step change to deliver education of the future, and how fast can we move towards this? But first, ask yourselves, have you really embraced the enabling technologies that already exist? Thank you for listening, and I'd welcome that anybody gets in touch on any of the issues that I've touched upon today.